welcome to My Life in Pixels. I'm recording this from home for once, which is very exciting. Today I was doing a photo shoot for a campaign with the Institute of Coding, and I did a little video interview that I'll be posting on my social channels when it's ready, and I'm going to be writing a little article for them about the gaming industry and hopefully getting more girls getting into making games. So hopefully I'll be able to share that quite soon with you. But right now, to business please, ladies and gentlemen, because I am delighted to have my friend Mr. Rich Campbell on the podcast. As usual, we talk about where we met on the podcast. I do like asking my guests about that because I get to meet people in a variety of random ways, and my story with Rich goes back to 2017, but it was really at ESL 1 Hamburg where we finally got to hang out together for a decent period of time. Even though we've spoken quite a lot, really, just messages for the last couple of years, really, especially more recently since I started full-time hosting. He's just so much fun to be around. I like the fact with Rich, I can take the piss out of him, and I know I'm not offending him because I can be, I don't know if sharp's the right word. I can be quite direct in my humour, and I don't always know if that's okay or not, whereas with Rich, I know it is. So he's just an excellent person to hang out with and has more shoes than I would know what to do with. He's certainly the most uniquely dressed person in esports. I absolutely love his outfits, and I really wish that I could do more events with him. So if tournament organisers are listening to this, please can we make this happen? I'll flip and learn to cast if it means I get to work with him. I'm going to try and work on Counter-Strike casting. I don't think I'd be a full-time caster or anything like that, but it might be nice to kind of hop on for a show match or something like that. And speaking of show matches as well, we've got to talk about IEM Beijing and what happened there. But first of all, I want you to listen to the interview. So what I'll do is I'll chat about that on the other side. We're talking for about an hour here. We'll start by talking about the games that Rich played growing up. And then we talk a lot about World of Warcraft because I've never played World of Warcraft. I know, it's shocking, isn't it? So Rich kind of gives me the stitch on what it's like to play World of Warcraft, about the esports scene, and then we talk about how he became a host. So if you're more interested in Rich and his career, how he became a host, how he ended up at TI, then you might want to skip to the half an hour mark. We also talk about Gamescom deodorant. That starts off the podcast, in fact. And we talk a little bit about the Rich's future events at the end of this. He mentions Counter-Strike. I'm literally watching this tournament, DreamHack Open Atlanta, as I'm speaking this to you right now. I'm multitasking. I haven't seen Rich on screen yet because I missed the start of the show, so I'm going to hopefully cheer him on in Twitch chat quite shortly. So, again, I'm digressing. Let's get to it. Let's hang out with Rich Campbell. He's the best. You're going to love him if you don't love him already. See you on the other side. Rich, when we catch up with each other like we did at ESL 1 Hamburg, you always remember where we first met, and I kind of don't recall it, and it was Gamescom
that hurts.
2017.
That actually really hurts.
I was having a really good evening, that's all I can say. Was it Gamescom 2017 or was it Gamescom 2016? All I know is it was at the Twitch party.
Yeah, wait, which year was it? I think it was probably 2016.
Yeah, well,
I think it was 2016.
I'd only worked at Twitch for a few weeks by then. All I can say is, in my defense, at those Twitch parties, I have worked God knows how many hours, and not drinking or going out or enjoying myself. And so the 2 years I did Gamescom as a producer for Twitch, at the party, I was like, I am staying out until they chock me out. So I'd never get really, really drunk, but I would have a really, really long evening. So I can't remember which year it was.
I legitimately that year, that was one of the hardest shows I ever worked. I think my hotel was an hour and a half away, something like that.
In Dusseldorf.
And yeah, so I had to fucking schlep up there. Oh, can I curse?
Yes, you can. It's me.
Boobies, penis. Oh, this is awesome. I love podcasts. They're so liberating.
To be fair, that's not actually swearing. That's biology, Rich, but that's fine. We're scientific on this podcast. Maybe.
Wow.
Anyway,
wow,
as you were, you were
now
talking
I feel
about.
like I should continue saying penis.
You were talking about tits and peen.
Yeah, those are my two faves, honestly. But that show was tough. It was so hot, and it was like one of those shows too. You ever get somewhere and they decide to change everything the second before the show starts without telling you. So
Yeah.
I had been hosting already for a year consistently for this game, something like that. And right before the show starts, they're like, "Hey, by the way, Rich isn't hosting." I was like, what? What am I doing? And they're like, "You're play-by-play." And like somebody else was host, and it ended up getting changed. But there was a period in time when this show started at Gamescom. I'm incredibly hot. That's a hard show to work, I think. And
it's
I was
really
just
hard.
sweating and just trying to play-by-play cast. And then I got there to the party, and I met you, and it was the most miraculous moment of my life, and you forgot about it.
I think it was 2017 I stayed out till the end again, but this time with my mate James Duffield, if you know him. He's on the podcast. He's in one of the first few episodes. And basically when we left, the drinks fridges still had beer in, so I tried to take some with me, and then the like bouncers came after me and they like took them off me because I put them under a see-through top. I was wearing a top under the see-through top, but for some reason I sort of put them in it's like a beer sandwich with my clothes being the bread.
I think that was the year I met you.
Yeah, so that was 2017. It was so hot that year. It was so hot. But one of the good things about Gamescom when I was producing was I'd enter and leave the building, the convention center, before the public arrived. Whereas the last 2 years I worked as a host, I have arrived at the building after people have arrived. And oh my God, it smells really bad. Really, really bad.
The convention center?
Yeah, and I don't want to like put aspersions on people or like talk about stereotypes and things like that, but it's hot.
I get so triggered. I get so triggered when people tweet about like don't wearing like make sure you wear deodorant. That I hate when people tweet that. It's actually a huge pet peeve of mine. Like the actual act of tweeting it really irritates me. I'm just like, what are you gaining here? It's just like like when people tweet that shit, I actually get genuinely enraged and refuse to wear deodorant and make sure that I fucking see them at the show. Cause it's like this weird thing where it's just like, I don't know. I feel like if you tweet about the deodorant thing, you're saying that you're more important than somebody else. And like your smells are more important than, I'm okay with deodorant. I'm not saying that. This is a weird way to start a podcast. I'm totally fine with deodorant. Totally fine with deodorant. I'm not wearing it right now. It makes me play video games better. Da-da. I swear. Like I operate on a higher level. The aluminum inside of the deodorant, it holds me back. But right now I'm completely liberated, and I'm going to be the best video game player all day today after this podcast.
That's cool. You're in your flat. I'm not. I don't think I've ever tweeted about someone not wearing deodorant, but I do say about Gamescom being stinky because it's in August. It's like the third week of August.
Oh yeah, no, that place smells.
Yeah, so it smells. So I'm not saying everyone has to wear deodorant. I'm just saying that place is a little bit stinky. But I love Gamescom. I go back there. I guess I'm in a place where most of what I do is esports, and the esports that goes on at Gamescom is not the most important thing, right? It's people wanting to get their hands on the games. And so therefore, I am not a main attraction at Gamescom. I'm not an attraction at all. In fact, when people asked for photos with me at Gamescom this year, which is the first time they've asked for photos, it was because they recognized me from the PC gaming show, and they were like 10 people who maybe even less. So that was really nice that people recognized me.
It's always cool like seeing where folks know you from. I've always really enjoyed that. Like for me, one of the weirdest things is people in New York must not play World of Warcraft. Like I always, if somebody asks me for a picture or says hello or anything like that, I always ask like, oh yeah, what do you like? What do you know me from? What do you watch or something like that? And we'll talk about it for a little bit. I guess it was yesterday or 2 days ago, somebody started talking to me about WoW, and I was like, this has not happened in the longest time in New York. I'll have people all the time talking about Call of Duty, Dota, things like that, but I'll never have New Yorkers talking about WoW, which actually makes me really sad. But I don't know how it's just like a blind spot of the city, but it is always interesting to see that. But yeah, Gamescom smells like shit. I actually there's I don't know what it is. I just I think I've like, this is like there's so many people who probably watch your podcast who don't know me at all, and they're gonna be like, this dude's weird. I feel like I outgrew deodorant in a really big way. I wear it, but I have this one friend. He's actually pretty well known. I'm not gonna call him out. He is the stinkiest human being on the face of the earth. And we used to play Dungeons and Dragons together. We used to actually stream Dungeons and Dragons together. Well, now everybody's gonna be able to figure out who it is. But he would just reek to the high heavens like all of the time. And I think that made me, it became endearing at a certain point. My olfactory senses were just held hostage, and I just got over it. I got over it now. Now I actually I find a human sense quite enthralling, and I feel like I'm like a dog. I can like remember somebody by their scent now. So now you know that about me.
Now I know that about you. When did you first start getting recognized?
For
just in general, when was the first time that someone was just like, "Oh my god, can I get a picture with you? You're you."
Well, okay, so it's funny. My ex-girlfriend was like in some movie or some shit. I don't know. I never watched it. I forget what it was fucking called.
Just the one.
But yeah, she was in like one like random like Tyra Banks movie or some crap.
Oh, Coyote Ugly. No.
No.
Okay, but anyway, okay. So right, so you're with your girlfriend.
Well, so people used to like every now and then would ask to take pictures with her. And then they would think that I was someone, so they would ask to take pictures of me, and that happened for a long time. And then my friend who I mentioned, people would ask to like take pictures with him, and then they would think that like I was somebody and asked to take. So I don't know when it actually started, you know, because people just pretended. Like I used to get drunk and just be like, yeah, I'm Matt Damon, you know, I didn't give a fuck. Like people were just taking pictures of anyone when they were drunk. I guess it was probably, oh man, I don't know. I don't know. Okay, I like that part of the I've like never really paid. I float, you know me. I just kind of float. I don't know what year it is right now. I actually just looked to see what year it was, but I think the thing that really made people start coming up to me a lot more was when I made my podcast, which I haven't done in a while now, but we did it for, I think it was like a solid 2 years. And I think that was the thing where all of a sudden I wasn't just an esports host anymore. I was actually somebody who was making content, which was a pretty good feeling.
Well, listen, I've got to do the admin because this is called My Life in Pixels, so we need to go right back to the beginning before even World of Warcraft and talk about your first video game and devices you were playing on. Rich, give me the beans, spill them.
You know, it's tough to say exactly when the first game was, but my first memory was a Land Before Time game. It was like on floppy. I remember playing it with my grandfather, and he passed away when I was in like, I think kindergarten. So I was like 5 or 6. So it was pretty early that I played that game. And he gave me that computer, and I was gaming on that quite a bit. I remember a bunch of weird, like kind of like Monkey Island like games on floppy that I was playing. My synapses were so not formed. My memories are so bad, but I really just remember this one where you had to give this dude your shoes, and it just changed my life forever. I've been hoarding shoes ever since. It was like a very clear memory in this video game. And then after that, I remember, you know, kind of playing consoles with my father. And then by the time the N64 came out, like everything had changed. You know, we were carrying around our consoles to each other's places, so we had every single console everywhere. A lot of like card games too. It was good. It was the golden age.
What was the first game that you absolutely loved then?
Like I think it was MMOs really that broke me. 2004 I started playing WoW, but I'm trying to think what year City of Heroes came out. I think City of Heroes got its hooks in me maybe before WoW even did. Going back to classic WoW definitely created a lot of nostalgia for me. So I started thinking about some of the old games that I was playing. Like even right now in like I'm logged into WoW. I'm like about to raid MC, right? It brings back just so many memories. Like I remember when I used to do MC. I wasn't a very good player back then. Definitely not playing as much as I play now, or as smart or as attractive as I am now. So I would get into Ventrilo, like a public Ventrilo, when I would do the raids. And if I would talk, people would realize I was young. So they wouldn't give me loot because they said I was too young to have loot. So all of a sudden I'm back in the raid. I'm having all these memories, and I was like, I'm going to mess around with City of Heroes. and it was this game. I think it was NC Soft, and I forget who else. And the way that it actually worked was you created a superhero, and the customization was absurd. Like, you picked different, you pick your class, and then you have a huge pool of basically superpowers that you could choose from, and then inside the pool you would actually choose which powers you would get, and you would make costumes and it was so customizable, and in a lot of ways really ahead of its time. Even now when I'm playing it on private servers, even though it's almost non-functional when it comes to simple things like moving, but that game just blew my fucking mind. And it was actually I was playing World of Warcraft already, but it was really my friend's mother who made me switch from City of Heroes over to World of Warcraft. She just kept kind of being like, yo, it's a better game, the end game's better, blah 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 blah, are you a real gamer type shit. And she was a real gamer. She ended up leaving my friend's dad and ended up marrying one of her guild leaders. It was pretty badass.
WoW then turned into your life. How long did that process take?
Man, I feel like it was a pretty quick descent, in the best way possible. I guess throughout BC is when I really started to get solid at the game and actually start to appreciate like a lot of the things that were going
BC?
on. And,
listen, I know
Burning Crusade. Yeah, no, it's just the first expansion. I
haven't played WoW. Okay, so that is, I know it's a flaw. I know it's a flaw. I follow some of the expansions because of my work at Twitch, like Battle for Azeroth, etc., but I have never played it.
Yeah, wow, you should try. I really do mean that. It's the best thing ever. I kind of feel like I'm handing you the spoon right now, but the thing is it's just, when WoW was at its peak too, there's just really nothing like it at all. Also, you really realize with WoW that the way people play video games ruins video games now. It's people just power game too much, and a lot of the wonders sapped out of any game. And even in classic WoW, the way that people play the game, it's definitely a lot different. But
what's the wonder of WoW?
They're like, I think the original wonder was, holy crap, this is huge, right? There was nothing like, you were in a completely different world. There weren't many experiences like that. And there were just little things too, like the fact that you weren't always getting hit by loading screens and stuff like that made it feel more real than some of the other MMORPGs did. The fact that you were just surrounded by people all the time, you knew different spots where different people would be. Here, wait one sec. Which tune am I on? The thing was just like everything about it coalesced to feel very real, and it just caught me. It just 100% caught me. And by the time Wrath of the Lich King came out, I was raid leading. I was parsing, which is basically like you try to see who can do the most damage on a boss fight. It's super cheesy. I was going for server first kills. I never got like a world first. I ended up getting to cast over those later, which was actually a huge dream of mine. The fact that even became a thing is still pretty awesome. But yeah, I think by the time Wrath of the Lich King happened, I was pretty much all in. But then Cataclysm, when that came out, I actually look at different portions of my life, and it's completely divided up by WoW expansions. Like, I know how old I was. I know what was going on based off of the WoW expansions. But when Cataclysm came out, I was in college, and I stopped playing WoW pretty much altogether, and started talking to girls and stuff. It was pretty wild. And then I ended up coming back.
I'm curious, though, as someone who has not played WoW, and there'll be people who listen to this podcast, say, who discovered this podcast because of Counter-Strike, for example, who might never have played WoW. So what happens in a typical WoW session?
Yeah, like never ends. That's the thing with a typical WoW session. Like you have to, you're not just playing with friends because you like them or because they're good. Right? I think that's the thing that becomes really interesting when WoW's working very well. You're actually you become dependent on other people in a lot of ways. You need them to get stuff done, and they need you to get stuff done, and it creates like this weird, almost family dynamic when the game's acting as intended. And if somebody tells me that they need help doing something, even though like I don't know what I'm going to ask them to do, like I don't know what I'm going to need help with, but you do it.
But what are you doing though, Rich? What are you doing?
Just like going to the inn, just hitting on late. So basically what you do is you level, right? Which is one of the things that was so fantastic about Classic WoW, because that was a huge portion of the game, was the actual leveling experience and exploring the world for the first time. But when you play WoW, so here's the weird thing: there's retail and there's classic now. The more modern WoW has a lot of nuanced things that you can do day to day, but with classic WoW, you pretty much you level, you make sure that you get your pre-raid best in slot by doing dungeons with groups of people. Then you're gonna be able to go in these giant 40-man raids once a week, which is actually what I'm doing right now. And the thing is it's so tough to get 40 people in one place at one time. It's like actually such a difficult thing, and we do it with, I think we have over 160 people that we have to make sure get into a raid each week, because me and a few of my friends like run this guild. And you go in, you raid, you kill the stuff, you get loot, and then after that you farm gold so you can buy mounts and gear on the auction house, things like that. You also go out into the world and do world PvP, and they're adding honor basically into the game, and it's this whole crazy system where every time you kill someone you rank up a little bit, and that also gives gear. And then eventually in Classic WoW they're also going to be adding battlegrounds, which are like objective based gameplay, so capture the flag. There's like, my favorite one is called AB, or Ate Basin, and basically it has 5 points and you're playing control essentially. And yeah, they basically add battlegrounds a little bit later, and then over time more and more raids get introduced. They're basically just trying to get loot so you can do more damage, so you can get more loot, and it never ends, and it feels really good.
What happens when the expansion is released?
Well, it's changed over time. Basically, when expansions used to come out, it was a little bit of a reset, and everybody would have to level again, like 10 levels. And then you would basically be starting over as far as gear is concerned. Usually you would get a little bit of power, that you get like a new spell or something like that, something neat. There were usually new classes added, a lot of different things. And the big part was you just explored a new place in the world, which was always really fun. And all of a sudden you got to see something that you never even thought you were going to see before. And now I feel like BFA was a really rough expansion. I wasn't a huge fan of it, but I'm really excited for Shadowlands when it comes out. I can't believe I just made you talk about World of Warcraft for like fucking hour. I'm such a little addict.
That's the thing. I know there'll be people listening to this who will be like, why is she interrupting him to ask really basic bitch questions? But the thing is, I'm really curious because I just haven't got time to play at the moment. I can't justify having a subscription when most of my life is traveling without decent enough internet in hotel rooms to be able to even play Counter-Strike, let alone a game that I haven't experienced yet. So there's part of me that really wants to try it. If they ever do a free trial or something like that, I could maybe like log on and have a go, and you can show me around.
The thing with WoW that is really nice is when you do find that group of people, it's also the downside, right? Because there's always a chance you don't. But when you do find that right group of people to play with, they're going to be supportive of everything. Like my guild knows that I cast, right? Like they were bringing up the CS event that I'm doing before I had even told anyone. They're like, dude, that's sick. I love my guild and genuinely love getting to play with them all the time. So I think that even with you can still play. You can still find a way to play. And I think you should jump off the deep end and become a professional World of Warcraft player.
Let's talk about how you become a professional World of Warcraft player, because it's not just streaming. You can also actually compete in esports as well. I don't even know where to begin with the esports side of things, because I know that there's a couple of different modes. There's arena, don't know what the other one is called. I'm guessing you do both. So how did it even get an esports scene to begin with?
So Arena has existed for a really long time. I'm not even sure how long at this point. I've been involved in it since Warlords of Draenor, like end of Warlords of Draenor. So that's Warlords of Draenor year, which is 1 year, then Legion, which was 2 years, and then BFA, which is going to be 2 years. So I've been doing it for a little while at this point. And the cool thing about World of Warcraft esports was at first it didn't really exist. And it was a lot of people just setting stuff up, a lot of world-based crap that would go on for weeks. Like it would just be never ending. VHel, who commentated for a long time, he was one of the guys too that like created a lot of stuff that was going on in the world, and hearing his stories about it it's always really fun to get to hear kind of how he describes PvP starting in a lot of different ways. And on top of that, Battlegrounds existing always kind of seemed like it was going to be an esport, but it didn't end up being one. I'm still hoping that one day it will. The new thing that you're referring to is the MDI, or the Mythic Dungeon Invitational, which is like a speed clearing competition, basically, of dungeons. And that I started in the first iteration of it, like very, very early on. Started doing that, and like the first few shows, but I'm trying to think how long it was going on. Sorry, but I stopped doing it for a little while, and I actually just came back for BlizzCon for the first time since really kind of its first iteration. It was a lot of fun to come back and do it, but they're so different. And Legion added these dungeons that were scaling forever, and it was a new type of endgame, and people could just kind of go bananas and try to pull bigger and bigger dungeons. And seeing it turn into a actual competition where people could get money was big. I also am creating my own dueling tournaments now. I did one with Asmon and SFan, and it went really well. It was like small prize pool, nothing too crazy, but I guess in like 2 weeks, like literally right after the CS tournament, we're doing another one, and we're doing like a $40,000 prize pool, and I couldn't be more excited for that. I think one of the big things with WoW is it's been around so long that stuff can fall into something that's flat. I feel like players don't get supported enough, and also we don't ever look for new talent at all. Like the only people who are for such a long time, all the people who are competing have been competing since the beginning of it, right? And every now and then there's like a new player will pop up, and you'll actually be able to move up a little bit, but there's just no system for it, right? Like there are no teams that aren't basically tier 1 teams. Even though there are tiers between those tier 1 teams, and it's not even close, you pretty much know all of the squads that are going to be going to each LAN. You know the squads that are going to be going to BlizzCon, and it's been like that forever. So I think doing more community initiatives will help find new players.
With that in mind, if there aren't new squads, new fresh blood found, do you see the esports having a future in World of Warcraft?
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty legitimate question, right? I think, like, you look at some of the players, like Seed, who's one of the biggest players. He's got a kid now. He's got another kid on the way. It's like he won last year, not this current BlizzCon. It's like, are we going to wait for his kid to grow up before we have another WoW player that we watch? I think the other thing with WoW too is there is a really big focus on streams as well. A lot of the people who have a fan base at all for the esports stuff, it's because of their streams, right? I think that's kind of an interesting thing about WoW. I mean, WoW, I really don't think streaming would be a thing if it wasn't for WoW. I feel like you look back, and WoW kind of is the backbone in a lot of ways for the variety streamers. A lot of the big variety streamers started in WoW, and so I think it does have an interesting community in that sense. I think that we are seeing that there is a big future for the esports. I just don't really know where it's going to go. Like if it's going to end up being more focused on Arena. Like it always seems to come back to Arena, but I think the raid race kind of changed everything. Method put together their raid race.
Race of Worlds first.
Yeah. I think that really, I'll never forget my first day at MLG. So I worked full time at MLG, and then for a little bit, MLG got acquired by Blizzard. So I ended up kind of getting to work at some of the more corporate side of things for a little bit, which was really important experience for me. But the first thing that I ever did when I got hired by MLG and got my MLG email, I actually messaged Skill, and I was like, hey dude, I think it would be really cool if we did this. And he's like, let's hop on a call. And we actually talked, and I bring it up with him every now and then, but he basically was like, we think it'd be cool too. I proposed this whole idea. I was like, I can get MLG to do like this event. Like, we'll do this live event. Like, we'll all be in like one area. Yeah. And he was like, it's really cool, but I think it's impossible. I don't think we'll ever stream it. Because he's like, I don't think we'll ever stream it because we would lose. We would like lose our competitive advantage if we did that. I just don't think we're going to do it. And all of a sudden, 3 or 4 years later, he calls me. He's like, hey, do you want to cast this world first race? And I was like, fuck yeah, sign me up. I was gone for like 2 weeks doing it. And every time it comes around, I genuinely get very excited. I think that's one of the parts of WoW that really pulled me in, is these large scale raids and seeing who's going to be the first person in the world to kill it. And I mean, these bosses get thrown at you and you don't know any of the mechanics. You don't know anything. And it feels like video games used to feel, where you didn't have the internet, where you could just look it up, and like you had the internet, but you didn't have modern internet where you would just look stuff up and instantly get an answer, tell you exactly how to do everything. There's no feeling of being a like script kiddie almost, or I don't even know what to call it. Just like those people who just follow the meta. Like, it just, these are the people who are making it. We get to celebrate the fact that they are doing something for the first time ever. And I think it's just like a really awesome experience to be a part of, especially being there and actually seeing it happen. And I'm really proud that the WoW community was able to create these events in the first place.
So I feel like I'm not getting enough of your story, and that's my fault, because I'm kind of asking you general questions about WoW and getting you to be my guide. But I want to know how you started hosting, because obviously you stream as well. You stream so many hours. You do everything, and you're busier than I am, and that's saying something. So what came first for you? Was it streaming or hosting?
It was hosting. I started as play-by-play, but my dog is freaking out. Basically, I went to school for video game design, which is kind of how the whole thing started. I was going to school, NYU, wanted to make video games. It was a long process to even get me there in the first place. That's a story for another day, when the police ain't listening. But basically, I was all ready to go. I was ready to make video games. I was working for a service called Instacart that basically I would shop for other people's groceries, and I was making pretty solid money. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to do this until I get into grad school, and I'm just going to do it as much as I can. And I was making cash. It was actually crazy. They basically gamified the entire system. So I was just kind of taking advantage of that. I was making cheddar, just shopping for people's groceries. It was great. And I was working on a game, and I was like, I'm just going to do this. I don't necessarily need to build my resume. I'm just going to focus on making a game, and I'm going to go back to grad school, and then I'm going to make video games, and they're all going to be great. I'm going to be super famous, and I'm going to, like, women are going to love me, and I'm going to have like 18 children. And that was the plan. And all of a sudden I stopped making money with Instacart. They like kind of found out that I was making like $41 an hour, something crazy like that. And they changed the system, and they made it so I could only make $9. It was awful. It was so sad. And I was like, you know what? I should get a job that builds my resume, like allows me to develop a little bit in the gaming industry. And that same night, I'll never forget. It's so weird that it happened like this. I was walking down the street with my ex-girlfriend that I had mentioned earlier, actually. And I bumped into my friend who was with his ex-girlfriend. And he was like, yo, dude, what have you been up to? And the only reason I knew this guy was because he was in one of my game development classes, and he would play Flappy Bird all day. And he was super insane at Flappy Bird. And the next year, we ended up in another class together, and I was playing WoW all the time. And he would just watch me play WoW in class. And that was how we knew each other. I watched him play Flappy Bird, and he would watch me play WoW. And he was like, dude, you should come to MLG. You'd be a really good fit. He's like, I just started working behind the scenes at MLG, and I think you would really get on there. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll give it a go. That sounds really cool. I walk into MLG in a suit the next day with my resume. I'm all ready to go. And the guy, his name's Will, who ends up interviewing me, had known me from NYU because I had played StarCraft against him or some shit. And before I even started interviewing, he just like was basically had decided I got the job, which was awesome because he was like, hey, do you know how to do this? And I was like, no. I was like, I don't know how to do any of this. I got a job as a technical director. I was basically using the switchboard. I was doing a whole 9 yards. And the very first show that I was doing was for Chris Puckett and Benson. So pretty good talent that I was kind of talking in the ear of. And I actually got to a spot where I was just sleeping at the venue and teaching myself as much as I could. Like I would legitimately, I remember Destiny was like pretty popular at the time too, because I would play Destiny on an Xbox that we had in the other room pretty often. But I would sleep on the couch at MLG, and I would teach myself how to use the teleprompter. I would teach myself how to do everything that I could. And I just like was completely hooked. Like it was the only thing I wanted to do all of a sudden was just make shit in gaming. And I never thought that was what I wanted to do. But the second that I started doing it, I was just like, wait, this feels so fucking good. And I watched Chris host, and I was like, fuck, I want to be able to do that. Like, I need to be able to do it. And I felt like I could. I didn't feel like I was going to be instantly as good as Chris. And I still, to this day, every time I watch Chris work, I'm always like just blown away. Dude's a fucking god. One time, I'll never forget, we were doing an online match with a guy named Methods, who ended up becoming my friend later. He's a good dude. But he was casting, and he lost his spot. And he just had no idea where he was in the VOD. And I go to Puckett, yo, Zinni lost the spot. Moobot lost the spot. And Chris, without hesitating, goes, and 15 minutes and 45 seconds on the clock, and did a countdown. And it was so natural. And I was just like, the way he put out this fire is just like the most beautiful thing ever. And I just want to be able to fucking do that. And what ended up happening is like a week or two into work, Chris ended up getting married to his wife. And because he was getting married, he needed someone to fill in for him. And I filled in for him, and I casted Rocket League. I was like, hey, Chris, can I please fill in for you? Because he's asking like if anyone knew any New York talent. And he was like, yeah, you've been working your ass off. Go ahead, give it a go. And I casted with Benson. That was the first time I ever did play-by-play. Like pretty much no prep besides the fact that I had just been watching Rocket League the whole time. Like I didn't like practice casting or anything like that. And they said I was pretty good. And after that, Smite came to MLG. Nobody knew how to cast it. I worked my ass off. I casted that. And then all of a sudden the announcement came in that we were going to get World of Warcraft as well. And when we got World of Warcraft, I ended up producing the show. I didn't get I wasn't necessarily put on to cast it right away, but I basically asked this lady named Olivia. I don't know if you know Olivia. She's fantastic. She used to run the WoW esports program. I kind of asked Olivia if I could get in. She said, yeah, sure. You can have one set. And she put me in between VHL and Venruki. So I had to do a tri-cast, and I got off the tri-cast, and she was like, hey, you did great. How would you feel about doing a show in Europe? And I was like, yeah, I'd love to. I was like, when is it? She was like, don't worry, we're going to put you on for a little bit longer. The next day, I ended up on like a flight to Ukraine. It was literally like the next day. Yeah. And I'll never forget. It was for Star Ladder. And Vlad was the guy who's in charge of it. And that was when I met Vlad. And Vlad put me and Adrian in a room together, and we went for like 14 hours. And you remember those Star Ladder pizzas? He put one of the Star Ladder pizzas in there, and I was so hungry, and I could just smell it, but I couldn't eat it. I didn't know how to eat on camera yet, like while I was casting. And oh man, what that was like. it was like a 14-hour show with another guy. His name's Healing Stat. I'm sure you've probably met him. Maybe not, but he's the man. I love working with him. And we casted together for like 14 hours. And that was when we really became like good. Vlad liked what I did as far as casting went and asked me to stay over the week to do Hearthstone, but I couldn't because I already had an obligation with MLG, like just to do desk work. And the last thing I ever wanted to do was not be loyal to MLG. I was like where I started. So, you know, if I had to sharpen pencils, I was going to do it. I was going to make everything work. And what ended up happening was he basically flew me out the next weekend or maybe it wasn't the next weekend. Maybe it was a month or so later. I'm trying to remember. I think I ended up doing a different show for Hearthstone, but he flew me out to Dubai. I casted Hearthstone, and then he kept asking me to do Dota, and I couldn't do it. And when I finally got fired was when I ended up doing Dota. But it's funny, all the way back to really kind of my first real show, it was all Vlad. And I think Vlad, I give Olivia a lot of credit. I give Ryan Thompson, Will, Ethan, like Puckett, like a lot of the people at MLG. Like MLG gets a lot of credit, and then Olivia and Vlad were kind of the people that gave me a lot of work. And then there was a guy named Dino at MLG, and he was like the hardest boss ever. And he had like a really interesting take on how we were going to do stuff. And he used to make us do like these stand-ups where we would just chew prompter and just go at it. And we basically do like shitty Facebook news articles. And a lot of people were like, yo, this is terrible. And I loved the fact that people said it was terrible because it just gave me an opportunity to get all the reads. And basically, because I was doing all the reads, my contract actually got changed. And all of a sudden my contract said I was talent. And that was like a pretty big deal to me when that actual flip happened. And yeah, now I'm now I do it every now and then. Now every now and then I get to talk about the video games.
I mean, you do it quite a lot, Rich. And obviously you did Call of Duty through MLG as well. So a lot of people, as you mentioned right at the start of this podcast, people recognize you for that. Yeah. When did you leave MLG?
About a year ago now. So I was, it was definitely kind of a weird situation, right? No hard feelings about it. It was I got let go. Everybody in the New York office got let go.
So you weren't fired then. Your job was closed, but you weren't fired.
It's just like everybody likes the fired meme, and I kind of like the fired meme too. It's kind of funny.
When I got let go from Twitch, like 40 people lost their jobs, and when someone said about people getting fired, I literally was just like, that is not true. I remember just being so angry about it because the people that I work with were good at their jobs, and anyone saying that, I was just like, no. that was my grieving period of 24 hours, whatever, when people were saying that, and I was like, you don't know what you're talking about because you were not in that room. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, I got laid off, and I was just like, wait, what does that even? It's like this weird thing because BlizzCon was coming up, and I was like, wait, I got laid off. I was supposed to do, like, what am I going to do? And I got instantly invited to BlizzCon. So it was like this weird thing where it's like, okay, I got laid off, but now I'm going to BlizzCon still, which is kind of like the most important show at the time for me for the year. I was still getting offered Call of Duty. So it was like this really weird thing where it was like, yeah, I got laid off, but I still definitely had like a decent amount of work, and I was like a little bit upset. I definitely I was kind of crushed that, I don't know. It was weird because, you know, MLG was kind of the place I wanted to work until I died. Blizzard, not necessarily so much, but the actual MLG portion of it was everything. And it was this weird thing where, you know, you kind of realize that stuff just doesn't last forever. Yeah. And that was all fine, but that was why I was able to do Dota. And Dota really changed everything for me. Like I even, there was a point when it happened where it was the first time that I could reassess stuff. And when I first got laid off, and I actually stopped streaming too, because my stream was doing pretty well. I could have just, I was in a situation for a long time, and I have been in a situation for a long time where I'm very thankful, but I could just stream, right? Like I don't need to host or cast or any of that, but I just really like it. so I don't want to stop. And but I stopped streaming too, and I was just like, fuck, do I want to do any of this anymore? Like, it was the first time that I actually stopped moving and just reassessed. I said, wait, what am I doing? Do I want to do any of this? And ultimately, a lot of things made me realize yes, but the main thing, actually, I was talking to my friend on the phone, and I was crying, you know, walking around the city, and somebody just randomly stopped me and was like, yo, Rich, like, you gifted me a sub in your stream the other night. It was like the weirdest thing. Like, what are the odds I randomly gifted this guy a sub, and he bumped into me, and he was just like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, I watch you when I'm at work, and you make my day like way less shitty. And I was like, fuck yeah, I do want to keep doing everything. I do want to keep doing everything, but how? And like, how am I actually going to do it in a way that, you know, I don't feel like I feel now again? And Dota was kind of the answer. Dota, I still can't believe I was lucky enough to fall into that community. It's genuinely the best community that I've ever really gotten to be a part of.
I do want to talk to you about Dota, but what did happen with World of Warcraft? Because I saw you at BlizzCon, and then because I was doing Overwatch World Cup, right, 2018, you were doing World of Warcraft, and then what was it, like maybe a couple of months later when suddenly you weren't doing World of Warcraft?
Yeah, that was definitely a situation. I think basically what happened, I went from not doing WoW to doing everything in WoW so quickly. Like, I don't think anybody else has ever done more in World of Warcraft than I have. A new program got introduced. I was doing that. I was doing their other program. I was doing my podcast. I was doing, like, I would go to BlizzCon and I would do 3 or 4 shows, right? And it was great. I remember at one point somebody hit me up and they're like, hey, like, you are the most, like, you have the most camera time on the World of Warcraft section over any developer, over anything. And they do like developer Q&As, like all this stuff. They're like, by like, it was like a crazy margin too. And it was just this thing where I feel like I feel like, and this is like, this was never said between anyone, but I think for them too, there's probably this moment where, you know, I am kind of the face of I was kind of the face of their esports scene. Right. And, I also had I had a bunch of stuff that I was doing, outside of stuff. And I could see that might have seemed very official too. Like, there was just so much going on. And I think that there was probably like a little bit of tension, but ultimately there was one season that they didn't invite me. And it like, I've never actually really talked about it publicly. It was a weird phenomena. I ended up not getting invited, and the way I found out was really not great. Like, I found out through the Twitter announcement, which was definitely, yeah, which was like, I think that was the thing that made it hard. I had a feeling that it was happening. I kind of, you know, you have a good cadence for gigs and such over time. I had a feeling I wasn't getting invited. And so that wasn't the big deal. It was just like kind of how I found out. So I posted about it. The show came to pass, and while that show was going on, I literally did the minor for Starladder. And I think it was one of the best shows that I've ever did. And that felt really good. Felt really, really good. And I think that show's probably the reason I got invited to TI. I think it was just some of the best work I've ever done. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't want to ever see like negativity. And like, one of the big reasons I made the post was to, you know, tell people not to be negative to the other casters, because they're all like family to me. I didn't want to see them get a bunch of flack or anything like that.
This is the tweet you made when you said that you wouldn't be going to do that season of WoW.
And I really wanted that tweet just to be like, hey, just don't be really negative or anything like that. But I'm not gonna. I went into when I actually like went into the stream and watched the stream and saw the way that chat was like spamming for me and stuff, it was kind of one of those moments where I didn't feel like they were being negative to the other casters really, and it kind of felt nice to actually see people miss my work. That felt really good. I felt like the community had my back, and ultimately Blizzard and I, and you know, everybody at Blizzard that I interact with, we're all cool now, and I like, even it's just like kind of all in the past at this point, which is really nice. And I'm pretty happy that it happened, because I don't think I would have gotten TI if it didn't happen. Like, I just don't know if I would have been, I don't know if I would have casted the minor, and like, you just don't know what would have happened. And I'm just so happy with how everything worked out. And I ended up finishing off the year still, and I ended up getting to go to BlizzCon. I ended up getting to do a game, a portion of the game that I hadn't done in years too. So it felt good. How it ended up panning out. It definitely caught me off guard, for sure. I think I don't know, maybe I could have handled stuff better after it happened. I don't know, but I think I did a pretty solid job. I don't think I ever went out and was like, oh my God, like, this is awful. Like, how could they fucking do this to me, or anything like that. I tried just to celebrate the fact that I didn't think I was ever going to get invited back. I really didn't think I was ever going to get invited back. So I tried to just celebrate the fact that WoW kind of started everything for me, and stress the fact that I wasn't going anywhere in WoW, because I still stream WoW, you know, pretty much every day. So I'm still definitely always going to be entrenched in that community. But the fact that I ended up getting invited back definitely makes my heart feel good.
So how did you feel when you got invited to TI?
Man, I'll never
tell
forget.
me how you found out. In fact, tell me this story. What happened? Your agent approached you, or like, I can't even imagine being invited to TI, man.
No, they so there's like I got a message, and from I don't know if I should say it there, but I got a message from the TO, not from Valve, basically saying, I need your email. And I was like, wait, what is this? And all of the sudden, every single person hit me up. Like, every single person hit me up that I knew from Dota. And they're like, did you get it? Did you get it? Did you get it? Did you get it? And I was like, oh my God, wait, somebody asked me for my email. Somebody asked me for my email. And I was like refreshing. And you just get, I got an email, and it said, hey, you want to go to TI? I was just like, what the fuck? And it instantly, everybody was talking to each other, and it was just like this, it was like this buzz. And they didn't tell in the email what I was doing either. It didn't say in the email. So like, we're all trying to figure out what everybody was doing and stuff like this. The first email is like, yo, you're going, like very general type thing. And then you get more information later, but it was crazy. It was really crazy. And I knew Paul and Shiva were invited. I was like, there's no way I'm hosting. I was like, there's no fucking way I'm hosting. Paul and Shiva are going. And I ended up getting to host with Red Eye and Shiva. It's pretty cool.
I love also that all the talent were messaging you. I think that really sums up Dota talent, because last time we saw each other was ESOM Hamburg, and we were sharing a green room because I was doing Clash of Clans in the morning. I was stage hosting that. So we actually got to hang out for the first time, like properly hang out. And I also got to spend time with the Dota talent, because I sometimes get to see one or two of them. Maybe I am Katowice, or I saw Moxie and I saw Shiva at Dream League the previous week when I was doing DreamHack Rotterdam for the Counter-Strike Open there. But this was the first time I got to really hang out over the weekend. And then I got to be initiated into Dota karaoke as well. It was basically like the dream green room. I had so much fun, and I just hung around after the show ended so I could hang out with you guys. But you can see like the family vibe and the fact that they all love you, even though you've been doing Dota for less than a year. I think it's amazing. It's such a
it's
cool
pretty crazy. We've been doing it
space.
for less than a year. Yeah, like when you say that, it's like very hard to believe, right? I genuinely am so lucky. Like, and that's the thing too. Like the second that you were like there, they were all like, "Oh, hey," and like you're instantly just like they're just the best people. They're genuinely just the best people on the face of the earth. Like I just don't understand how the community is like that. Like everybody's every time I met someone new as well, right? So the first show I did was wow, that's actually so nuts when I think about it like that. So January was the first Dota show I did, and oh man, we've gotten shit loot in this raid, Frankie. I'm actually heated as fuck.
I love that you're raiding while doing the podcast, and that's fine because I wouldn't have you any other way.
I'm streaming, playing WoW. I'm not streaming, but it's like I'm streaming. It's like I'm streaming.
Yeah,
I have streaming brain on right now. You know, like the game is taking such low priority.
It's no worries.
My peak gamer performance muscles are just taking over. But listen, I
got 7 minutes before I have to like go out, so I might ask you to do like 15 more minutes recording with me another time. But yes, sorry, continue.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm easy. You know where to find me now. But yeah, the thing with Dota is just like you're instantly they're just the best people. They're the best people. Like Kyle, but the reason it's so nuts is because Kyle's like obviously like. Kyle's one of my best friends, right? I talk to Kyle pretty much every day. Fogged is one of my best friends. I talk to him every day. And, you know, like the thing is those guys I have known for about a year. But then you look at Tsunami, for example, who's one of my incredibly close friends. You look at, I think even Blitz. Like I didn't meet them until the minor. I've only worked... You know, with a lot of the folks in Dota, I've worked like 2 shows, probably tops, with them, and I feel that close to them. It's just it's crazy. Like I've never felt like that. Usually, when you join a new scene, people want to fucking murder you. I always feel like I'm about to get murdered when I join a new scene, and Dota's not like that. I've never felt more comfortable in my entire life. I love them all.
Yeah, I definitely feel the same way. No one was just like, why the hell is she hanging out in our space? It was like, of course Frankie's in the same room as us. It was a lovely experience. I haven't been in a green room like that. Not that the people I don't work with aren't nice and I don't get on with them, but with Dota, it was just joyful. Like you could really banter with people and chat, and it was good natured, and I never felt like an outsider, even though I've played Dota twice. I'd love to play Dota more. It's just so hard to learn on your own. And, you know, if Valve ever were like, hey, do you want to try Dota? I'd be like, yes, of course I do. And to be honest, a huge part of that now would be because of the people I would get to work with.
Oh, yeah. That I will, if somebody was like, hey, Rich, here's $1 billion, right? You don't need to work you don't need to work ever again. Like you got all the money in the world. I would still try to book every Dota event I could. Right. I'm so, and I'd probably be, honestly, if I got $1 billion, I'd probably be somewhere very, very disgusting with Kyle right now. I love that man. And I fucking love everybody. Like Dota's actually the best. I feel like, I feel like it's just like very distinct vibe though. I obviously don't know CS people as well, but I fucking love everybody I've ever gotten to hang out with in CS. Like, Alex was in New York not so long ago. I got to go out with him. I would gladly steal him and have him live in New York forever. He's very fun to hang out with. I really like him. Paula is super fun as well. And beyond that, my memory fails me.
It's all right. You know me. I guess I'm CS now. I hope I'm CS now.
You are.
Done 18 events this year in CS, so I feel like I'm CS.
You blew the fuck up. Oh, I like Launders too. I fucking love Launders.
Yeah, though you always say he owes you money. I'm seeing Launders quite soon, hopefully. Launders and Scrawny,
get my money.
The sweetest casters I've ever met. Like, especially Scrawny.
Get my money.
Okay, I'm gonna try. Your $60,000, is it? I don't know. It keeps inflating every time I speak to you.
Now it's $128,000.
Okay, so Launders, if you're listening to this, you apparently owe Rich $128,000. But by the time I see you next, it's probably gonna be about $360,000. Just a warning.
Man, quick at math.
I've got like 3 minutes left with you, Rich. What's coming up next for you? I know you're doing DreamHack Open in Atlanta.
Yeah.
You're doing some Counter-Strike.
Yeah. I'm what day is it? I haven't started my prep yet. I usually start my prep like the day before, like the hour before. I need to do it right before because it makes the information feel like saucy, you know.
Yes.
I don't like preparing too early. But yeah, before I do the event, crippling fear. The first time doing a new game every single time, but the second the camera goes on, I'll feel really good. And I got Potter. I'm like pretty familiar. I've gotten to watch like a lot of work, so I feel pretty safe. I'm not really. I'm not like super scared. I'm gonna like be doing all my research, and I also feel like I feel like I have a lot of people that can kind of back me up on team stuff and things like that, which is really nice. But yeah, then right after that, I go to Texas for the dual tournament, which is going to be on Asmongold's stream too, which is going to be hype AF.
So World of Warcraft, rounding off the
year. It's going to be really sick. And it's nice to do a tournament that, you know, made yourself. I legit like built this tournament by hand with two of my friends, and we have over $40,000 in prizing. So I'm pretty fucking excited for that.
And then 2020, we're going to try and find an excuse to work together, right? Or at least share a green room again.
I got two goals, Frankie. We're gonna work together, and then you're gonna be my what is it? You're gonna be my whatever at my wedding. My what's it called?
Officiator. Am I gonna marry you to someone?
I don't know about that. You're the one that like hits on the you get to, I don't know what's it called. It's
Maid
like
of
best
honor.
man, but like
I'm gonna be like your best man, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
So I'm gonna.
But it has to happen in 2020.
Yeah. Well, if me and my boyfriend break up and you get married in 2020, I will be the lechy best man who everyone feels sorry for and tries to set up with one of the bridesmaids. How's that sound?
Yeah, if you guys break up too, we can cancel my wedding and then we can have our own.
Okay. I love that.
There you go.
Although you're not 30 yet, so you shouldn't be that desperate, whereas I actually am.
Yeah, but it's not desperate.
It's okay. This is literally recorded. We're committing this to the podcast now. We can do that.
No, it's
when we're 40,
fine.
packed if you want.
It's just it's not desperate. It's how I want to spend my time, right?
Okay.
I want to spend my time with my imaginary wife.
Well, listen, no one's ever proposed to me before, so the idea that in 2 years' time that I'm guaranteed a proposal, I appreciate that.
Wait, that's so far. Wait. All jokes aside, the first time I met you, I legitimately proposed to you.
I like that you're putting this on the record.
I don't care. Like, I didn't know that you had a boyfriend at the time. I asked you to marry me, literally on the spot, Insta.
And I don't even remember this. I feel so bad.
Yeah, it's terrible.
I can't believe someone proposed to me for the first time in my life that wasn't a weird Instagram DM from someone I didn't know, and I don't remember the occasion.
Yeah, I'm a little bit hurt right now. I'm a little bit hurt. I distinctly remember asking you to marry me, and also I remember making Sophia gather intel. And
we're talking about Jari now. For the tape, for anyone listening, we're talking about our friend Jari, who's a fantastic streamer.
I was like, is she single? I was like, is she single? And she was like, oh, Rich, go for it. And then alas, we are here. We are here.
Here we are. Ride or dies.
Very true. Very true. I mean, you are one of my ride or dies. It's pretty crazy that I don't know. Like when I met you too, like I don't know, like you weren't even necessarily someone where it was like, oh, this is going to be my friend because of work or anything like that, right? Like genuinely, I just really appreciate you as a person. I mean that.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate
really
you too, even if I sometimes think Tash is weird.
I honestly, it's not for me. It's not for you. It's for the people.
It is. It's for the people. Rich has got a big following for himself, for his Twitch channel, his hosting, and of course the mustache. I think it's his kind of Samson equivalent. That's his long hair. It's basically his magnificent mustache. But I feel like, he should maybe rock the full beard a bit more often as well. He had that at Hamburg. He looked great. but I'm going to stop obsessing over how Rich does his hair. I'm not going to talk about my own hair. I'm going to move on from hair, in fact. I want to talk quickly about IEM Beijing. It was my last Intel Extreme Masters of the year, and I randomly ended up playing in the show match on the last day, and we won. And partly because I pulled my finger out in the last round and, well, due to my enemy's mistakes, managed to win a 1v2 clutch. And I've written an article about that for the Intel website. I have a little profile that's going to be on there sometime in the future due to my sponsorship with them. And so I go into that moment in a bit more detail there, but there's a clip of it on Twitch as well. It was one of the most it was just extremely emotional when it happened, because I really didn't believe that it had. I didn't realize it didn't kind of set in what I'd done, and I had no idea that I'd killed Stunner. As the last player I took out was Stunner, so it was literally host versus host. And listen, Stunner's one of my favorite people I get to work with. So did I feel guilty? Yeah, maybe a little bit, but I did give him the CPU that I won. I gave him my Intel 9th Gen 9 as a little sweetener to soften the blow. And he's a much better player than me, but it's fine because we won. So thank you so much to my teammates. They were Freeman, Kaze, Shocking, of course, our team captain, and DX Master, who is the host at IEM Beijing. He's such an amazing person. He's a legend. He gets everyone so hyped. I really want an opportunity to work with him again in the future, so hopefully I can go back to China at some point and work the same event as him. But yeah, thank you so much to ESL for having me at my 4th and final IEM of the year. Absolute treat to work with you guys again. And I have one more Counter-Strike event that hasn't been announced yet, and then it's Christmas. Before then, I've got a couple of other things. I'm going to record a couple of more podcasts, hopefully. But yeah, it's almost it for the year, and what a year it's been. But I'm going to talk a bit more about that in future podcast episodes, because this is not the last podcast episode of the year. So thank you so much for listening. I will be streaming more in the next couple of weeks, twitch.tv/Frankie. So please do come out and hang out. One of the things I discovered was playing on stage with professionals against professionals has made me much more confident, I guess. So now I'm hitting the server. I know that I'm capable of fragging, so watch out. That's all I'm going to say. Watch out, silver ones. I'm unranked at the moment, but I'm coming for you very soon. Ooh. Wow, Heroic has just been Triumph at DreamHack Open Atlantis, so I am going to wrap up right now so I can go and watch my mates on the desk do their thing. Jacob, aka Pimp, Potter, and of course Rich Campbell, he's going to be hosting. So I'm going to speak to you guys all soon, but thank you so much, as always, for listening.